until we get the whole story and make them pay for what they did to my...
Small towns sell this image of peace where neighbors wave and the loudest thing after dark is a train rattling through the valley. But don't get it twisted. In the quiet pockets of America, there are shadows people don't like to talk about. Stories buried deep, stories that never get answers. Welcome to Scary Mysteries, and thanks for tapping in. This case hits hard. Tonight, we're digging into 5 chilling cold cases scattered across America's back roads. Number 5 takes us to Valdez, North Carolina. It was December 22nd, 1981, just 3 days before Christmas, in the cold mountain town of Valdez, North Carolina. The air burned your lungs when you breathed, and frost glazed the roads under passing headlights. 19-year-old Rhonda Hinson was living a simple, straight-arrow life, working, stacking a little money, and trying to plan her next move like so many small-town young adults at that time. Rhonda had recently landed a clerical job at a local steel company and talked about going back to school someday. She was known as dependable, quiet, and low-key. Someone who stayed out of trouble and followed the rules. That night, she went to a small Christmas get-together with co-workers. Nothing wild, just a casual pre-holiday hangout. She stayed later than planned, finally heading out around 12:30 a.m. Her parents, who lived just 10 minutes away, left the porch light on so she could find her way home. Rhonda climbed into her light blue Datsun, said her goodbyes, and eased onto Highway 70. Around 1 a.m., a passing driver noticed something off near the Mineral Springs Mountain Road exit. A car sat on the shoulder with the driver's door wide open. The headlights were still on, the engine still running, but the driver was gone. Just a few feet away, down in the ditch, Rhonda lay face down, her hands gripping the frozen ground like she had tried to pull herself to safety. When officers arrived, they first assumed it was a wreck. Maybe she swerved and tried to get help. Then they saw it. A single bullet hole punched straight through the trunk of her car. That bullet tore straight through the metal, ripped through the seat, and slammed directly into Rhonda's heart. She was shot from behind while driving home, and investigators quickly realized the shot came from above, likely fired from the embankment lining the road. This wasn't someone standing roadside by accident. Either this was a freak, random sniper moment, or whoever pulled that trigger knew exactly when Rhonda would pass and was waiting for her. Detectives retraced every step of her final night, the small Christmas party, the short drive, and one detail that stood out fast. Rhonda had called a friend before leaving, saying she was tired and ready to go home. She had no enemies, no known conflicts, no former partners causing drama, and no reason anyone could point to for wanting her gone. She was barely an adult, just starting life, and that made it even harder to understand. But then things started to feel off. Friends said Rhonda hadn't been herself that week, acting tense, almost on edge. One friend said Rhonda told her she felt like something bad was going to happen. Another remembered Rhonda saying she didn't want to drive alone anymore, claiming she had been followed before. That changed everything. Investigators chased every angle. A sniper hiding on the ridge, someone obsessed, a jealous acquaintance, a random drifter passing through, but none of it stuck. The bullet was traced to a .30-30 rifle, a common hunting weapon in the area, and dozens of people nearby owned one. Nothing narrowed it down. Years later, detectives admitted the scene never felt random. The timing was too clean, the angle too precise, and the shot felt personal. It looked like someone followed her from the party, waited for that dark stretch of road, and fired, then stood there in the freezing night, watching her car drift to a stop. Rhonda's parents never moved out of the home they shared with her. For decades, her mother refused to turn off the porch light, the same light she left on the night her daughter was supposed to come home but never did. Number 4, Hannibal, Missouri. In November of 2009, the river town of Hannibal was getting ready for the holidays. Turkeys filled grocery carts, Christmas lights went up downtown, and among the familiar faces was 21-year-old Christina Whitaker. She was the kind of person you recognized instantly, even if you didn't know her name. Always friendly, always smiling, always standing out. Christina was a young mom doing her best to juggle real life while caring for her 6-month-old daughter, Alexandria, and trying to keep her relationship from falling apart. On the night of November 13th, she needed a breather. She told her mom she was heading out with friends for dinner and a couple drinks, promised she wouldn't stay out late, and said she'd check in. Nothing sounded off at all. Around 8 p.m., Christina met her friends at Rookie Sports Bar just off Main Street. A few cocktails, laughs, pictures snapped for memories, and for a while it looked like a normal Friday night. But as midnight crept closer, the mood changed. Witnesses said Christina was clearly drunk, not out of control, but shaky and unfocused. Something wasn't sitting right. She got into an argument with a friend and stormed out alone, saying she was heading home. Her place was only about 7 blocks away, an easy walk she'd done before, but she never made it. Just after midnight, Christina was spotted outside Sportsman's Bar, nearly half a mile away, asking strangers for a ride. Some people said she was crying. Others said she seemed jumpy, like she thought someone was trailing her. Around 12:45 a.m., a witness claimed they saw Christina running barefoot near 6th and Church Street. After that, she disappeared completely. By morning, her mother Cindy knew something was seriously wrong. Christina never went a night without calling or checking on her baby, ever. When she didn't come home, the family contacted police immediately. Searches spread through downtown, nearby woods, and along the riverbanks. Her purse and cell phone were found left behind, but Christina was nowhere in sight. Early on, investigators brushed it off as stress, alcohol, or a possible mental health episode, but that story didn't hold up for long. In the weeks before she vanished, Christina had told friends she was scared of someone. There were signs of harassment, possibly tied to people she knew through her boyfriend. Rumors of threats started to circulate, and then came the phone calls from private numbers. A woman's voice, sometimes crying, sometimes whispering, other times just breathing on the line. The case stretched into Illinois after reports claimed Christina had been seen across the river in Peoria. Some believed Christina was still alive, possibly being controlled or moved around by traffickers. A private investigator chased that lead for years, and every so often a new witness popped up claiming they were sure they'd seen her. A motel here, a club there, always under a different name. But no matter how many tips came in, none of them ever turned into solid proof. The longer time passed, the messier the case became. Hannibal police took heavy criticism for not moving fast enough in those early hours. Around town, people started spinning their own theories: abduction, trafficking, drug ties, even whispers of a police cover-up. Every few months, a new tip would light things up again, and every time it hit a dead end. Hope kept rising, then crashing. In 2020, a documentary team from Oxygen's Relentless spent years retracing Christina's final known steps. They crossed state lines, interviewed witnesses, and dug deep into police files. They didn't find her remains, but they did uncover a chilling detail. Evidence suggested Christina was likely dealing with a serious mental health crisis in the weeks before she vanished. A friend revealed Christina had been experiencing hallucinations, hearing voices, and believing people were after her. Whether those fears were connected to the strange phone calls or were part of her mental state is still unclear. What is clear is that Christina Whitaker walked out of that bar 16 years ago, scared and alone, for reasons that may never fully be understood. No remains were ever found, no arrests were ever made, and her family still holds on to hope that she's out there somewhere, waiting for the chance to come home to her daughter. Number 3, Myrtle Point, Oregon. Myrtle Point is a quiet logging town tucked deep in the evergreen forests of Coos County. It's the kind of place where summer smells like pine and everyone shows up for the county fair because it's the biggest thing all year. In the summer of 1986, 14-year-old Jeremy Bright traveled from Grants Pass, where he lived with his mother, to visit his sister and attend the Myrtle Point Fair. He had grown up there before his family moved north, and coming back felt familiar and exciting. He was eager to reconnect with old friends and relive those carefree summer days. The last week anyone saw Jeremy was filled with simple moments: hanging out at the pool, shooting hoops, riding the fair attractions like he always had. Nothing about those days hinted at what was coming next. Something felt off in the days leading up to August 14th, and later Jeremy's sister would say he mentioned seeing someone at the fair who gave him a bad feeling. He didn't explain who it was or why, just a quick comment that passed by without alarm at the time. Back then, it sounded like nothing. After what came next, it meant everything. On Thursday night, August 14th, Jeremy headed back to the fair with friends like he had all week. He was last seen around 9:40 p.m. near the Ferris wheel, wearing a black windbreaker, jeans, and a red t-shirt. At one point, witnesses saw him walking toward the fairground exit, saying he was going to meet a friend, and just like that, he vanished. When Jeremy didn't come home that night, his sister assumed he crashed at a friend's place. But by the next morning, worry set in. She called their mom, and together they reported him missing. From the very start, police treated it as a runaway situation, a teenager enjoying summer freedom, staying out longer than expected. They assumed he'd turn up. Days passed. No calls, no sightings, no word from Jeremy. That's when the mood changed. Search teams combed through nearby rivers, dense woods, and old logging roads. Officers interviewed dozens of teens who had been at the fair, but no solid lead surfaced. Time worked against them, memories faded, and details blurred. Then the rumors started. One teen claimed Jeremy was seen getting into a pickup truck with two older men that night. Another said there was some kind of confrontation behind the fairgrounds. None of it could be verified, but each story sounded darker than the last. Years later, detectives began circling one name, William Bill Jeffries, a local man with a reputation for violence and trouble. People claimed he bragged about knowing what happened to Jeremy, but bragging wasn't proof, and without evidence, the case stayed cold. Jeremy Bright disappeared into the summer night, and the truth went with him. That man told multiple people he helped get rid of a body somewhere in the woods outside town. But every time police pushed him for details, his story shifted. The location changed, the timeline changed, the people involved changed. That kind of flip-flopping set off alarms immediately, and investigators knew it. But before they could lock anything down, Bill died in 1993, taking whatever truth he had with him. Another story started making the rounds too. One that claimed Jeremy was accidentally shot during a drunken gathering near the river. Panic set in, and instead of calling for help, the people there allegedly buried him to avoid trouble. That theory lined up with pieces of several witness statements, talk of fear, talk of a hidden body, talk of silence being the easiest way out. The friends Jeremy planned to meet that night were believed to be older teens or young adults. Maybe they drove out to party. Maybe Bill was there too. Whether it was an accident or something worse, investigators believe something went wrong far from the fairgrounds. Out in those thick pine forests, it wouldn't have taken much to hide someone forever. One shallow grave, one unmarked spot. From there, all it took was silence. No remains, no weapon, no one talking. And just like that, the case froze in time. Officially, Jeremy Bright was a kid who went to the fair on a summer night and never came home. His mother never stopped searching. She drove logging roads for hours, stopping wherever a rumor pointed. She marked locations on maps that grew heavier with each passing year. She believed someone in Myrtle Point knew exactly what happened, that the truth never left town. It was just buried under fear and quiet mouths. Number 2, Russellville, Arkansas, December 15, 2005. Classes at Arkansas Tech were wrapping up for winter break. The college town was slowing down fast. Finals were over, dorms were emptying, and students were heading home. Among them was 19-year-old Nona Dirksmeyer, a communications major and former beauty pageant winner with big plans ahead. She'd worked hard, stood out, and was focused on building a future beyond Russellville. That night, Nona was at her small apartment on West 16th Street, just blocks from campus. She'd been studying for her final exam and making plans to spend the weekend with her boyfriend, Kevin Jones. Nothing about that night suggested it would become the start of another haunting mystery. Kevin was from Dover, a small town about 15 minutes away, and they'd been together since high school. The relationship wasn't perfect, but it was familiar, steady, and comfortable. That day, Kevin tried calling Nona over and over, but she never picked up. At the same time, her mom Carol was calling too, getting the same silence. That's when the worry kicked in. Around 9:45 p.m., Kevin drove to her apartment to check on her. The lights were off, which felt strange, but the door was unlocked. When he stepped inside, the place felt dead quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your chest tighten. A lamp was knocked over on the floor, papers scattered like someone had panicked. He turned the corner into the living room and froze. Nona's body was on the floor. She was partially clothed, and the scene screamed violence. Her skull had been crushed with a floor lamp. The cord had been cut and wrapped tightly around her neck. Blood splattered the walls, the floor, everything. Whoever did this didn't just attack her, they exploded. Kevin ran outside and called 911, frantic and barely making sense. When officers arrived, he was covered in her blood, saying he'd tried to help her, but from that moment on, he was under a microscope. Investigators noticed small cuts on his hands and the fact that he was the one who found her. They also pointed out how calm he seemed when police arrived, a sharp contrast to the panicked call minutes earlier. Kevin quickly became the focus. Within days, he was arrested and charged with murder. But as the case unfolded, cracks started showing. The physical evidence didn't line up clean. DNA found on a condom wrapper near Nona's body didn't match Kevin. Police tried to frame him as jealous and controlling, but his alibi placed him with family earlier that night, and it couldn't be disproven. In 2007, the case went to trial. Prosecutors leaned hard on emotion and circumstantial claims, jealous boyfriend, sudden rage. But the defense tore that story apart, piece by piece. The jury deliberated for barely an hour before delivering their verdict. Kevin Jones was acquitted. After that, investigators were left scrambling. If Kevin didn't kill Nona, then who did? That's when detectives started re-examining everything and uncovered something unsettling. The answer may have been hiding right next door the entire time. That trail led investigators straight to a man named Gary Dunn, a neighbor living in the same apartment complex. Dunn had a documented history of violence, including a prior conviction for attacking another woman in the area. On top of that, witnesses placed him near Nona's building the very day she was killed. The red flags were everywhere. In 2008, new DNA testing finally came back. The DNA found on the condom wrapper near Nona's body matched Gary Dunn. To most people, that sounded like game over. Case closed, but this story didn't end clean. In 2010, Gary Dunn was put on trial for Nona's murder, and then came the shock. The jury couldn't agree. It ended in a hung jury. Prosecutors tried again a year later, confident this time would be different. Same result, no conviction. Jurors later admitted there was lingering doubt, mostly because Kevin Jones had already been tried for the same crime. The case felt tangled, confusing, and poisoned by uncertainty, and just like that, Gary Dunn walked free. 2 men accused, 0 convictions. Nearly 20 years later, there's still no final answer, only a mother who refuses to stop asking the same question. Around Russellville, whenever Nona's name comes up, people still whisper the same thing. Did they catch the right man? And if they did they really let him go? Number 1, Sherman, Connecticut. Sherman sits near the New York border, a rural town full of winding back roads and quiet stretches of land. It's the kind of place people move to when they want peace and distance from chaos. That's exactly what 38-year-old Mary Baracco believed she'd found. Mary worked as a private housekeeper, raised 2 daughters, and lived in a modest home off Route 37 with her husband Dom, a local contractor. Around town, Dom had a reputation: loud confidence, hard edges, the kind of guy who always needed to be in control. By the summer of 1984, the marriage was cracking. Friends said Mary wanted out. She told people she was exhausted from the constant arguments and felt trapped by ongoing threats. She made it clear she planned to leave for good. She even spoke with a divorce lawyer, but before she could take that next step, Mary vanished. It was August 20th, 1984. That morning, Mary was expected at one of the homes she cleaned. She never showed up. No call, no explanation. By that evening, her daughter Sherry drove to the house to check in. Dom was there alone. He calmly told her Mary had left, packed her things, and run off with another man. But nothing about that story felt right. When Sherry looked around, nothing lined up. Her mother's car, a silver 1982 Chevy Cavalier, was still parked in the driveway. The driver's side mirror was cracked, and inside the house, it felt frozen in time. Mary's purse was missing, but her cigarettes, jewelry, and everyday personal items were still right there. That didn't look like someone who chose to walk away from her life. It looked like someone who vanished right in the middle of it all. Days turned into weeks, and the response stayed slow. Dom never reported Mary missing. Her own daughter had to do that. By the time police finally searched the house, whatever trail existed was already ice cold. No body, no clear crime scene, no witnesses, just Dom's story that Mary packed up and left. At first, police listed Mary as a missing person, but the deeper they dug, the darker things started to look. A close friend told detectives that Mary had confided in her shortly before disappearing. She said Dom had gotten physical during arguments and that she was genuinely scared for her life. Another friend backed it up, saying Mary planned to leave him that very week. Then came a detail that raised eyebrows fast. Mary's car had been moved from where it was first seen in the driveway. Someone had cleaned it. The inside had been wiped down. Even the cracked mirror had been replaced like it never happened. It wasn't until 1996, more than a decade later, that Connecticut State Police officially reclassified Mary's case as a homicide. But by then, time had done its damage. Dom had remarried, moved on, and refused to cooperate. He was never charged with anything. The investigation slowly collapsed into a mess of silence and closed ranks. Dom had close connections with people in town, including law enforcement. One of them was even a retired police officer who had worked alongside him before. Whispers started spreading that people were being paid to keep quiet, and just like that, the truth about what happened to Mary Baracco stayed buried under loyalty, fear, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. In 2010, the state brought in a grand jury to take another hard look at Mary's case. Investigators spoke with Dom's former spouse, past employees, and people who once ran in his circle. Some claimed Dom had confessed, telling them she wouldn't bother him anymore. Others talked about strange activity around the property after Mary vanished. Men digging near a stone wall, a fire burning late into the night. Still, none of it was strong enough to secure charges. Dom Baracco died in 2019 at 84 years old without ever being arrested. To this day, Mary's body has never been found, and the truth of what happened that summer in Sherman, Connecticut remains locked away forever. Those are 5 cold cases that still haunt America's back roads, stories of quiet towns, unanswered questions, and families left waiting, and that's going to do it for today's episode. If this story grabbed you, Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves true crime. We've got plenty more cases waiting for you. Stay safe out there, keep your eyes open, and I'll see you in the next one.